A candlelight vigil to remember 12-year-old James Alex Hurley of West Yellowstone. I'm Gabby Crevitt, and tonight we'll take you there.
A Valentine's Day walk turns into a nightmare and then a miracle. I'm Laura Podesta with the incredible rescue of a couple missing for a week and how they survived in the wilderness.
That is a crazy story. You're going to like that one, Southwest Montana. In the meantime, just ahead of 6:30, Chet Lehman, Caitlin Corbett, Matt Elwell. Yeah.
Man, it was beautiful Saturday.
It was beautiful Saturday. What a Monday morning we were having out there right now.
Yeah, we had all that wind, the snow yesterday. Now we just have glaze ice on many of the area roadways. It's not that the crews aren't out getting things cleaned up, but a lot of the snow that they moved out just left the ice. Now they're out sanding things.
So it is slick. Do be
careful. It is very slick. Leave some extra time. I was showing some graphics. We'll do it again coming up in just a little bit. Most of the snow has let up. There may be a few light flurries for a few areas on our fringe areas out toward Helen and those areas, but temperatures down below freezing, which means that ice is a problem on our area roadways. I don't expect to see a lot of heavy snow today, but there will be scattered snow showers across the area, and that'll exacerbate the problem as you're driving home. Once again, daytime highs into the 30s, and again, slick roads. You can see it looks like a sheet of ice there in the mining city for the early part of the day. We're going to break down your complete forecast, of course, coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Matt. Just ahead of 6:31 now on this Monday. Hundreds of people attended a candlelight vigil for a 12-year-old boy who was allegedly beaten and tortured by members of his own family, and he eventually died.
MTN's Gabby Crevitt has the story this morning from West Yellowstone.
Peace, peace, wonderful peace.
I want him to be remembered as a light in our community and a child that life was taken too short.
A grieving community still reeling after the death of 12-year-old James Alex Hurley, who was found dead in the living room of his West Yellowstone home. Earlier this month, the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office arrested Hurley's grandparents and 14-year-old uncle. According to court documents, they now face charges of deliberate homicide and deliberate homicide by accountability. But Sunday night was a night for remembrance and coming together as a community.
We celebrate together and we experience grief together. And today was a day where we came together and tried to help each other see hope.
The West Yellowstone police chief, as well as other members of the community, read poems, sang songs, and led prayers.
We all experienced a range of emotion from grief to anger, back to grief to crying, and then frustration. Hopefully we see the light through this.
It's a very tight-knit community. When something like this happens, everybody gets together and we all reach out and we try to bring everybody together to try and get it to where a situation like this doesn't happen again.
In West Yellowstone, Gabby Crevitt, MTN News.
6:32 now. We're going to shift gears just a little bit to the national scene. A romantic hike turned into a near-death experience for a couple in California. CBS News' Laura Podesta reports after police had given up hope of finding them alive.
The two were eventually found in okay shape after being lost for more than a week in the wilderness, and it was teenagers who were to thank for their rescue.
Ian Irwin and Carol Kaparsky gave the thumbs up from hospital beds in recovery after a Valentine's Day hike went terribly wrong. The 72-year-old and 77-year-old were discovered Saturday by teenage search and rescue volunteers in a densely forested part of Marin County in Northern California.
We start hearing two people yelling help very loudly and clearly, probably about 150 feet away.
Suffering from hypothermia but in good spirits, the two were airlifted to a nearby hospital. Experts say they survived because they were drinking water from a puddle near where they were stranded.
I've spoken with the family of both Carol and Ian, and they are ecstatic, to say the least.
Family describes the couple as avid hikers, but said Irwin was hampered by an ankle injury. They were wearing light clothing and did not have a cell phone or any food or water on them when they left for the hike. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
The couple are accomplished academics. Irwin is a leading Parkinson's disease researcher, and Kaparsky is a prominent linguist and author of several books on language, including 1975's The Gooficon, a repair manual for English.
Back here at home, Bozeman Fire turned 136 years old this weekend. The original firehouse was off Rouse in Maine, connected to the old City Hall and Opera House. Over the years, Bozeman Fire has only lost one firefighter in the line of duty, and that was back in 1922.
So since being founded in 1884 and our primary focus being on fire suppression, that's changed over the years as the valley has grown and just the world in general. Only about 2% of our calls are actual structure fires at this time. We respond now to emergency medical services, hazardous materials, technical rescue, just to name a few of the different types of calls we respond on daily.
Bozeman Fire also provides the community with fire code enforcement, building inspections, and public education.
Happy 136th birthday.
Yeah,
We're glad
awesome.
you're here. 6:35 now. You all know the drill. It's flu season, so make sure you wash your hands, use hand sanitizer. Yeah, but does that really work?
Well, MTN's Phoenix O'Connor asked the experts at St. Peter's Health about the benefits of hand washing versus hand sanitizer.
Health experts say preventing the spread of germs that cause illnesses like flu start with proper hand hygiene.
You should always wash your hands if they are visibly soiled. And you want to make sure that you're using hand hygiene, whether that is hand washing or if you're using hand sanitizer.
Proper hand washing includes using soap and warm water and scrubbing your hands for at least 20 seconds. And if you need a timer, the CDC suggests singing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Hand washing is always going to be our gold standard.
The Food and Drug Administration just last month sent a letter to Gojo Industries, the makers of Perel hand sanitizer, about the claims they make about the effectiveness of the product. Gojo Industries claims Perel and other hand sanitizers it produces are effective in preventing diseases or infection from Ebola, norovirus, flu, and others, sometimes up to 99% effective. The FDA says the claims go beyond simply describing the general intended use of the topical antiseptic and are unproven. Gojo Industries responded to the warning letter by the FDA. We have begun updating relevant website and other digital content as directed by the FDA and are taking steps to prevent a reoccurrence. The CDC notes that hand sanitizer can be effective, but it needs to be above 60% alcohol, and it will reduce some germs, but not all germs. It is also less effective if your hands are visibly dirty or greasy. Seymour says to prevent the spread of germs, wash your hands.
Before you eat or before you prepare food, after touching our high-touch surfaces like our cell phones or shopping carts, door handles, light switches, all of that stuff.
For MTN News, I'm Phoenix O'Connor.
6:37 now. This morning we go under the big sky. Jerry Tam reveals some of the hidden history of the Pekin Noodle Parlor.
He also draws back the curtain on the after-hour activities that kept the miners entertained in Butte.
Under the Big Sky is sponsored by the Greater Montana Foundation and Rocky Mountain Vein Clinic.
Keno may have been invented in the basement of the Pekin Noodle Parlor. The early 1900s, here in Butte, Montana, we had somewhat of a casino, a legal gambling operation happening underneath the Pekin in the basement. Some was legalized, which was on the main floor. But the high stakes and the big money, you have to go into a certain door in the back and then walk into the basement. When you get down there, the first thing you see is a casino cage, which has no reason to be downstairs. Then you see a 12-pot coffee maker. All the decks of cards, all the poker chips, tables, roulette wheels, everything used for gambling. We have original Keno tickets with Chinese characters that were brought down to Las Vegas, Reno, converted into numbers, and turned into the modern day Keno game. All downstairs, and then the restaurant just was always on the top floor. Miners love to come down here. People spending their money gambling, eating Chinese food, and raising hell. Restaurants in and around this area always have lounges, and we have one. You walk up, you turn to your left is the restaurant, you turn to your right is our lounge. People wait for their order to go there, have a drink, watch their sports. We have gaming machines. So we have that atmosphere that you don't see in a lot of new establishments, and that's kind of really cultural here in Butte. The history of the pecan is great because we're kind of the originators.
And the Pecan Noodle Parlor story appears in the next episode of Under the Big Sky, which premieres Saturday, March 28th at 6 p.m. on MTN.
Great food, great history. If those
so
walls
good.
could talk, it would just be awesome.
I know, that's a great story.
Good stories.
Gotta
Food
go
to
there
the
sometime.
right, food to the right,
Yeah.
lounge to the left,
Gaming
gambling
to the other
downstairs.
side, yeah,
That's
yeah.
just awesome.
Oh, that's great.
We're going to take a quick break here on Montana This Morning. Here's a story we're working on for next segment and what's coming up at 7.
I'm Stephen Portnoy. President Trump has arrived here in India to speak at his largest rally yet.
Good morning to you. You are looking at the Gilliard Center. That's the scene of tomorrow night's big Democratic debate. So guess where I am? Right here in South Carolina. We too are getting ready for the big show. Bernie Sanders was a big winner in Nevada over the weekend, but Joe Biden leads here in the polls, especially among black voters. We talked to some about what they want in their presidential candidate. Plus, only on CBS This Morning, Republican South Carolina Senator Tim Scott will join us here at the table. See, our table goes on the road to talk about the primary and politics across the whole country and the complex history of Charleston, South Carolina. How some historic sites have reevaluated the way they are telling the city's story. Lots to discuss today. We'll see you at 7 o'clock on the dot.